Big 12 baseball has 2 host sites, but that wasn't the real story from this week on the Diamond. The Texas Tech softball team, Jason Williams flipping some birds to the Florida Gators, getting kicked out. Oh, UF deserved every bit of this one. This is the Dose Grande squad.
You're talking ball with the Big 12 squad. From Oklahoma State to Utah, from Kansas State to BYU, from Houston to Texas Tech, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming Big 12 weekend. Buckle up, it's the Big 12 squad, and we have a seat for you. No hurt feelings and thin skin allowed. Squad up, you're part of the Big 12 squad.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Dose Grande squad. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. There's Parker Ainsworth of Locked On Cougs, talking all things Houston. Cody Stovall, Locked On Oklahoma State. And look, we're recording this on Memorial Day. Hope everyone had a day of reverence on Memorial Day as well, and we know that there would be no Locked On Big 12 squad if not for those who served our country, and we surely appreciate that. But just the 3 of us holding down the fort. Appreciate you guys being here on a holiday, and we're going to give you a great show where we don't talk that much Oklahoma State, Houston, or Baylor. We're going to go around the Big 12 here and give some love to the entire conference. Even Cody's wearing a Kansas shirt because he lost a bet. If you hit subscribe, we get to keep our jobs. We're going to start with Big 12 softball, Big 12 baseball, namely this Texas Tech story, and Jason Williams, who now hates, like notable Florida man, Jason Williams, who hates Florida.
He was always an odd fit as a Florida man. I mean, like in some ways, I guess he is like the Florida man, but like he's very much from West Virginia and all that in his background, and like just so happened to play at UF, which is a weird deal. He feels more Big 12. I'm glad we got him.
In a trashy but kind way, and like a kindly trashy way. Great shout, Parker, and we'll start with that. Then we'll get into, I think, a couple segments for those football fiends out there. CBS just dropped its post-spring power rankings in the Big 12, and BYU jumped Texas Tech for the top spot. We'll talk about that a bit, but where's Houston? Where's Oklahoma State? I think both those schools are too low, and we'll also talk about the bottom feeders of the Big 12. A lot of football on this program. You're going to get a whole lot of Big 12. If if you hit subscribe, we get to keep our jobs. Can't say it as many of them. No. Jason Williams, his daughter transferred from Florida to Texas Tech and Super Regional in Gainesville. They're throwing at her head 5 times. Yep. They're just gunning it. They're beaming this girl for no, because like, oh, we hate you and your dad. Bleh, you left us. To completely classless from Tim Walton, the head coach of Florida, who's like a notably classless softball coach. And then Jason Williams kicked out of a game, standing up,
hilarious,
doing the stomp, like dudes with middle fingers. We're talking some wild stuff going down in Gainesville this week, and I think the SEC just means more heartbreak. It just means more tears. Just means more complaining. Once again, the SEC cannot handle the Big 12 winning.
The epitome of sore losers is definitely what the SEC has turned into. I thought it was absolutely wonderful. And here's the best part, Drake. When they weren't throwing at her, the ball was leaving the yard. She had multiple multi-run home runs that took the lead at least twice in game 1 and also in game 3. So not only was there a lot of unnecessary beef and animosity and the refusal to shake hands afterwards, but she stepped up and performed. That was the biggest problem that they had. If she'd have struck out or whatever, they'd all have been fine. But the problem was she was hitting essentially what ended up being game winners. And that's the karma, poetic justice behind all of this. We love seeing the Big 12 get dubs over the SEC, especially when the SEC shows their true flavor and they act like we expect them to do.
It's UF. It's more like FU. Am I right, fellas? Right. There you go. There you go. I love that the big defense out of Florida fans was some video. And sure you all saw the video at this point, but where like the Texas Tech fans are walking over the crowd, like taunting them back, whatever. And there may be some colorful language, but clearly at the start of the video, the Florida fans are legitimately flipping the bird. What do they think was going to happen? It's just not. You can't do that. We'll bring on Matt and Paul, I'm sure, in a second, because I am most ecstatic about winning Jason Williams in a divorce because he is very Big 12.
Mountaineer Paul, Jason Williams is back in the Big 12.
Love it.
I love it, obviously, as somebody who, Jason Williams is from DuPont, West Virginia. So obviously, if you've never seen the highlight tapes of he and Randy Moss back in the day at DuPont High School, it's incredible. It really is. They were both probably should have been 4 and 5 star guys. Randy should have been definitely in basketball as well as football. Jason Williams for sure close. But yeah, they were great to watch, obviously. So I have an affinity for them, listen, man, I wasn't surprised when I looked on Twitter yesterday and saw that he was being kicked out of the game and everything else that went on. And then he led the celebration afterwards. It's just Jason Williams, man. The one thing about Jason Williams is he's not fake. He is who he is.
Right.
He does not put on. That's just what it is.
And his wife, I guess, is also a Florida alum, and I thought it was interesting that he very much was like giving the pump up pep talk post game to the Red Raiders and stuff. Like he is all in on.
Yeah, but guys, if they wouldn't have thrown at his daughter 5 flipping times,
correct.
None of that happens. That's the crazy part. Like they're pointing fingers about how, look at classless Texas Tech. Like it's kind of funny that people call us the truck stop white trash conference, and then the SEC does this, I don't know, every other turn that they can, and nobody bats an eye about it. Everyone still points at the Big 12 as the problem. It's amazing.
It's gaslighting. It's gaslighting.
There you go. Well, they say, what is it? All publicity is decent publicity. Texas Tech for the last 2 years, but they stay in the headlines. It's not always great, but dagnabbit, they stay in the headlines. So shout out to Tech.
Well, and the criticisms are like they have a bunch of transfers. I'm like, okay, if you looked around, everyone's got a bunch of transfers. Or like they the deal is there some like she transferred in from Florida or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but the exits from Florida looked as bad on Florida's behalf as it did on Mia Williams' behalf. It's really is eye open to see what kind of defenses SEC countries trying to put onto this one, because it's pretty indefensible. There's not a whole lot to do. Anyway, there's just not a lot for them to say.
Well, and I saw a graphic earlier. I mean, I didn't dive deep into it, but the graphic I saw earlier had that Florida is the 4th or 5th most NIL spent budget in college softball, and they, I don't know, couldn't get a win. I didn't see Texas Tech on there, right? I'm not saying that Texas Tech hasn't spent a ton on softball, but that graphic that I saw earlier, Tech was not in the top 5 of NIL softball spending. I know OU was number 1. I do recall that.
That's not a surprise.
Right.
No. The deal with Tech is
the World Series.
Yeah, they didn't miss the World Series. It's SEC where it means more. And no, I think that the deal with the Tech is that Najee Kennedy is making a ton of money. I don't know how much the rest of the roster is actually making, right? That's the thing that. That's
the real question is how much did Maya Williams make for herself yesterday?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not like Florida. It's not like Florida couldn't afford it to have kept her, right? They easily could have from the financial figures that are being put out. So again, why they have so much animosity, it's kind of wild to me. I didn't know that this existed coming into it, because as Parker mentioned, in the transfer portal, we all have a bunch of portal people. It's just the way that it is. And at the end of the day, it's not like Texas Tech probably offered outlandishly more money than Florida, because Florida has the 4th or 5th most NIL spent roster in the country. It's just it's crazy that they were holding that level of animosity.
Let's keep it on the diamond here. Go to baseball. We got Mountaineer Paul now. West Virginia, Morgantown, the place to be this weekend. Oklahoma State. What can the Cowboys? Where's the Cowboy update here? Where's the barometer? And Houston is not new coach. This is the Dose Grande squad. Today's show is brought to you by Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs is exactly where I go when I need to make a hire. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing. The one position you have to fill is still sitting open. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you narrow down the right candidate for skills, experience, location. And here's a stat for you. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. If you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time hiring. And listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show by saying you heard about it on this show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It's Cody Stovall, Parker Ainsworth, and Mountaineer Paul. Yeah, Parker. He's got the brown bag on his head for old Houston baseball segment. If you love antics like that and want ad-free Locked On shows every day, go to LockedOnCougs. Supercast.com, Locked On West Virginia.supercast.com. You get the gist for our everydayers for ad-free Locked On shows. Parker Ainsworth, will the sun ever shine again? And okay, hold on. I'll preface this. Sark said it. He could beat any team in the Big 12 with his 2s and 3s. You go recruit the 2s and 3s out of Houston area high school baseball, you could beat anybody in the country, yet Houston sucks.
So I will say that by the time this comes out on Thursday, I think we'll have an answer.
And you have an inkling of who that answer will be? We're recording Monday.
Yeah, we're recording Monday, and I keep hearing Will Davis, who's the head coach at Lamar, knows the athletic director Ed Nunez from when he was an assistant coach at LSU. Eddie was on this administrative side at LSU too, so there's some connections there. He's had a pretty good run at Lamar, knows the area, knows how to do a lot with a little. The other guy is an alumni named Sean Allen, who's the pitching coach at USC, but he's been at Texas and some other big-time programs as an assistant coach, so his first head coaching gig would be at U of H. I think the big thing there is it's like you keep it in the family because Sean Allen played under Noble, which was the guy before Whitting, who Whitting actually also played for. So you kind of keep it in the same lineage, or you kind of go completely different, bring someone new in, a little bit of new blood. I don't hate either one. Again, folks will know who it is by the time this comes out on Thursday. But I've heard from credible people both names. So I actually don't know as I sit here on Monday which of those it will be, but those are the two I keep hearing over and over.
That's all we need for Houston baseball. See you, Parker. Thank you. Mountaineer Paul, you are the story here, though. Morgantown, West Virginia, Baseball America. Give me the barometer on West Virginia fans this week with the tournament ensuing.
Tough regional. Obviously, we definitely got a tough regional. Binghamton is a game we'll probably win, obviously, although Cody reminds me that they knocked off them up in Stilly a couple years ago. But certainly this is a team that, if you're talking about Binghamton, they've got a coach that's been there forever, that's been successful for a really long time. But smart money would obviously be on West Virginia. Binghamton's team ERA is over 6. Their pitchers probably not going to stand up to a Big 12 lineup. And I think West Virginia should win that game series and hopefully do it easily. The real question for West Virginia is, do you waste a starting spot for Max Yell against Binghamton, or do you go with another guy? Because obviously Wake Forest or UK is the real question for us. I think you save Yell and you pitch him against whoever wins between Wake Forest and UK. That's going to be the tell, I think. And when you look at those two teams, those are really good teams in both. Wake Forest won almost 40 games. They've got one of the best shortstops in the country, and Merrick Houston. Really love what they do. They've got a ton of power arms in as well. They're a team that does it with pitching and defense. UK more of an offensive-based team. But at the end of the day, all these teams have players that can beat you. You look at the center fielder for Binghamton and Matt Bolton. They're a really good team, but it's about West Virginia, as you mentioned. Gavin Kelly is soaring, obviously, and at this point in time, it's more than one person projecting him possibly to be the number 1 overall pick next year, certainly a top 10 pick. So he is the star. He is the thing that we need him to be a star this weekend. We need Max Yell to be an ace this weekend. And at the end of the day, I think those are the two guys you look to from a West Virginia perspective as carry us, please, because we really don't want to have to get into it too deep. Sean Smith has been on a tear. Obviously, he was 7 for 7 coming in to the last game over his last 2 games. We're excited about the way he's trending. And it's just a tough lineup for West Virginia. So I think Binghamton's going to struggle versus West Virginia. We shouldn't have to pitch our best guy again in that game, and then we'll wait and see what happens between Wake and UK. But probably one of the 2 or 3 tougher regionals, unfortunately. And then if we get through that, it's UCLA, and that's going to be really tough.
With respect to everyone else who hosts Locked On shows, NBA to college, I don't know if anyone's devoted enough to read that much about Binghamton baseball. Mountaineer Paul's boat racing you guys. If you want a show where he knows everything about everything sports and takes it seriously, you're looking at deadpan face. Seriously, the dude just works that hard. I think the tough draw, but being in Morgantown is awesome for West Virginia. What that does for the community is going to be great. Cody, Oklahoma State. I don't hate the draw, obviously, because you get 2 mid-majors that are kind of random mid-majors. USC Upstate is in there. And Alabama baseball, they've kind of had that choke factor the last few years if you follow them in the SEC. I think this could have gone a lot worse selection-wise where OK State's going.
Yeah, if you would have picked any of the ballparks that would favor Oklahoma State's lineup in the SEC, it's definitely this one. Their left field is 11 foot shorter than O'Brate Stadium. Center field's 12 foot shorter. Right field is 5 foot shorter.
Oh, baby.
And this is a team that has almost 140 home runs on the season.
Yeah.
We may not be good at a lot of things, but we are good about getting the ball up out of the ballpark. So I do think that strategically, I appreciate whoever put Oklahoma State in the Alabama regional, because out of every host site, they did give us the most beneficial ballpark for our particular ball club. Are they a better team? Well, yes. Do they have a better pitching staff? Yes. But they did put us in the right ballpark, and we're offensively a good enough team that if we get some surprise performances on the bump, this is a regional we could definitely come out of. I like our chances better than KU. Putting KU with Missouri State and Arkansas, that is a crime against the Big 12.
Didn't Derek say that Arkansas has knocked them out a bunch of times?
Yes.
Yeah, it's getting consistent now, yeah.
Well, and Paul, like, dude, if I was you guys, yeah, I would save Maxiell for Wake Forest. I wouldn't worry about Kentucky. Kentucky's a fraud. Kentucky only won 2 SEC series the entire flipping season. The only reason they're in the tournament is because they played in the SEC.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they come in with 31 wins, so it's, not a great resume, but you never know in the SEC. You really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also to lend it to that, you don't know in tournament baseball. I mean, now, like, you're going to, with Coastal Carolina winning the World Series 10 years ago, like, there's so many things.
Yeah.
Murray State making it to the College World Series.
Fresno State.
Yeah. So like,
we could talk about Mercer getting absolutely robbed, too.
Yeah, that was bad. They had the great 28 RPI. 28, and they didn't make the tournament. That's
40-plus regular season wins.
That's pretty sad.
40-plus regular season wins, and you don't get in, but 5 Sun Belt teams got in. No disrespect to the Sun Belt. I do know that they are a very good baseball conference, but with 5 Sun Belt teams get in and a 40-plus win Mercer ball club that has several Power 4 W's doesn't get in, that's kind of wild. Oh, and we haven't talked about Arizona State getting a 3 seed. I think that they have a really, really, really good chance to take down Nebraska, which would actually be Big 12 retribution, because realistically, KU should have got the 13 seed. Nebraska should have got the 15 seed because it didn't play out that way. Yeah. I think Arizona State might go up there and cause some problems.
Yeah, and Harrison's probably the best player in their regional,
Yes.
Yep.
For sure.
Easily. Yeah. Let's coming up. This CBS Sports spring, Paul, I'll give you a chance to Google it. The CBS Sports Big 12 post spring football power rankings just lost its number 1 team. This is the Dose Grande squad. It is the Locked On Big 12 squad, and CBS Sports with its power rankings have just dropped. Let's react to this first before we go through the rest of how they stack up with this 16-team ranking. BYU has jumped Texas Tech for number 1. Thoughts?
I think it's fair.
Okay.
I mean, they barely, were a team that got screwed out of the CFP this previous season. You could make the argument 2 years in a row. Did they get beat up by Texas Tech? Yes. Do they have something to prove? For sure. But, this is a quarterback-driven league that we talk about all the time. And I like Will Hammond, and there are reports out there that he might be ready for the beginning of the season. But if he's not, you just cannot take away the fact that Brennan Sorsby and Will Hammond are not quite the same level. So when you're talking about the Noah Fafitas of the world and the Devin Dampiers and the Connor Weigmans and the Drew Mestamakers, I do see that Texas Tech takes a little bit of a step backwards, and BYU is the rightful team to step in there.
Now, and to be fair, there's parity. Things can happen we have no idea of, a la Jake Retzlaff is bounced. BYU drops in the middle of the pack in the Big 12, and then they have a better quarterback statistically sitting behind him who's 17 years old. Some crazy things can happen, but on paper, going into next season, Texas Tech is significantly worse without Sorsby. Here's what I think is a very funny line from this power ranking. It says, the Red Raiders had the worst offseason of any Big 12 team after losing quarterback Brendan Sorsby. What about the other Big 12 team that lost quarterback Brendan Sorsby in this same offseason? What are you talking about?
That's funny.
I think the crazier thing you said there, though, is that BYU played a 17-year-old, because those guys usually show up at like 22. So that's a whole separate
And was Arizona State punished for losing Sam Levitt as harshly?
No, I mean Arizona State middle of the pack.
And Jordan Tyson too. And Jordan Tyson was pretty valuable.
Right.
Too.
See, I'm glad you brought that, Brad. Glad you mentioned that, Paul. Right. I think you could be able to make the argument that Oklahoma State should be above Cutter Bowley. So, I mean, I don't love Oklahoma State at 8.
Also,
Arizona State's at 7.
If we're saying worst offseason, has anyone looked at Iowa State? Has anyone seen if the football team's still there? Like, is the locker room full? They lost every starter.
They've moved it to Pennsylvania, I heard. Actually, the whole operation moved for a little bit cooler weather.
Brutal. But yeah, in this ranking, Houston at 3, Arizona 4, Utah 5, TCU at 6, Arizona State 7, Oklahoma State 8. That's the top half. Let's say this. I think after BYU, Texas Tech, and Houston, there's a pretty extreme drop-off. Unless you're in my book, I think Oklahoma State's in the conversation for top 3 or 4 team in the Big 12, given what they brought in, Indiana style. But if you, again, just on paper, last year's success, it's those 3, Texas Tech, BYU, Houston, and then anybody else could beat anybody else, and I genuinely wouldn't be that shocked.
That's very fair. Very fair.
West Virginia's not 15th. I promise you they're not going to be 15th. Like Josh Pate did a show on this, and I thought, he's generally not favorable to Big 12 teams, but in this case, to West Virginia, he was. He went down and sat with Rich Rodriguez. And if you just look at West Virginia on paper, you would say, yeah, they brought in 45, 50 guys last year, and they brought in 54, 50 guys this year. It's going to be the same thing over again until you look at the quality of player. It's so much higher. We had the greatest recruiting class in the history of our program this year. Like top 20 high school football recruiting class. And that's not including the bulk that it was, because it was a large class, just the top 20 guys. There's multiple 4-star guys in there. I think 7, somewhere in that range. And then obviously the portal class is also top 20. And so when you look at it from that perspective, the quality of player West Virginia brought in much better. And there's no way that they win 4 games again with that level of player. It's going to depend on a lot, obviously, but we think that we have we're going to have a really good offensive line. $5 million sunk into that, as well as obviously Cam Cook coming back in, who led the nation in rushing last year, who completely gets disrespected all the time.
I was about to say Cam Cook might be the most underappreciated portal guy in the Big 12 that nobody talks about at all.
He almost 2,000 yards last year. It's crazy.
I want to preface with some positive about West Virginia because I don't want to sound too negative. I agree with you. I don't think they're going to be 15th. I think they're better than UCF, Baylor, a handful of schools at least. I think that's very. I think they're better than they were a year ago.
Damn, man, they could be better than TCU this year. I wouldn't be shocked by that.
I have the trip to Morgantown for Houston Circle as one of the games that worries me the most. That's a hard place to play, and I think that those are all true things. I think though, Paul, what you're looking at here is actually how good the conference as a whole had a pretty impressive offseason. Houston also had the best recruiting class in school history and a top ranked, depending on which one you're looking at, XYZ ranked portal class. I think multiple schools had that. And so relative to the conference, I think that's actually kind of patting the whole conference on the back. It's like, hey, everyone did this. Everyone, Oklahoma State too, everyone had a good offseason. And that's why West Virginia is getting down. Now, I don't think that, someone has to lose, right? I feel like though that I don't think West Virginia is as low as they're ranked there. That's very valid criticism. I just think that when you talk about it's one of the best schools, and it's lots of schools are saying that this offseason because it was that good across the league.
Yeah, that's a great point. I do think that's a great point. I think with West Virginia specifically, the way I look at it is where we got better the most is with the offensive line. Obviously, we had 2 returners and then 2 guys coming from Jacksonville State that know the offense already, with the running back that ran behind them for almost 2,000 yards. So I think where we're going to make the most hay is in that running game. Obviously, if Mike Hawkins Jr. turns out to be a dude like they're saying, that's where I think West Virginia becomes dangerous. Every time you give Rich Rod a trigger guy that's a lead on the ground and Hawkins is a 4-3 guy, that's where I'll be interested to see if West Virginia can be better at. Because if we can run it this year, I really do think that we'll win a lot more games than some other teams that can also run it, because it's just it's the way West Virginia wins under Rich Rod. It's just how they've been good. But certainly we have questions like a lot of teams too. So I just think that we continually get undervalued just because of the last 7-8 years, right? I mean, it's been a rough 7 or 8 years, And until we finally prove it one year, it's not going to change. And people are content. It's like, we're not at Kansas's level, but it's that kind of people are sour on us. That's just what it is.
To the inverse of the same point, I guess.
By the way, CBS has West Virginia below Kansas, which is crazy.
I think Arizona State at 7 is also like, I understand that Dillingham's still there, and like I'm sure they spent a lot of money in guys that I have not heard, but like Cutter Boley replaces Sam Levitt.
Well, 7's fair. 7's fair. It's Arizona State's got a good infrastructure. I'd like them there. I wouldn't have them any higher though. I'm not that high on Arizona State.
I think I kind of like giving Avery Johnson and Colin Klein together at Kansas State more though. I agree.
I don't believe in TCU like that. I don't believe in Utah like that. I think Arizona's going to see a regression. I'm not. That's the part of the Big 12 that I'm not completely sold on yet. We've seen Fafita win the Alamo Bowl against Oklahoma. We've seen Fafita miss a bowl game. We've seen a.
Brent Brennan won back a lot of favor last year.
Oh yeah,
he was sure.
And Houston beat them. I will say I thought Fafita was fantastic. He played a great game.
I do want to ask, because Drake, you even said the top 3 maybe a little bit too low. Maybe should Houston have taken a little bit of an uptick with Brendan Sorsby being out, Parker?
So I've been saying for a while now that I think that Houston returns both coordinators, their head coach, and their starting quarterback, and a handful of like their leading receiver and all of the team that won 10 games last year. Like there just aren't many teams in America that can say all of those things at the same time.
Yeah, BYU can't. Can't.
Right. And like I think that's frankly, I don't mean to say that they're going to win 11 for sure.
What about the lines of scrimmage for Houston though? What's that looking like?
Per PFF, they got better at all 5 spots. They brought in a PFF All-American. Like they got better. They're better. I'd argue at every position except for tight end, and that's because they had a legitimate pro there a year ago in Tanner Kozell. Like I think that yes, if you're going to call them third right now, that's fine. They'll play Tech third week of the season with who knows at quarterback. That's kind of the story of Houston's offseason. It's like the first tough game out the gates for either team. We don't know who's taking snaps for them. Yeah. But I think that's kind of the deal. And like, look. Could they get got at Salt Lake against Utah or against West Virginia on the road because they're both tough places to play?
Utah Absolutely. Lost its head coach and like 3 or 4 all Big 12, possibly all American caliber players.
Yeah, I just more like mean it's a tough place to play. Houston's going to go on the road. Houston was undefeated on the road last year, but had a pretty friendly road schedule, right? And so I think that the deal is like they have 3 tough roadies this year. And I am including West Virginia when I say that. I know that I get flack because I think people think I hate Paul, but I actually like Paul a lot. I think that's a tough road game for Houston this year. I'm not worried about TCU or Baylor.
Who are these people that think you hate me? I don't think you hate me at all. I just thought we had like a rivalry.
What a duress. What a duress.
Like to me, it's a competitive thing. Like it's nothing personal at all. I just like ribbing on you. You like ribbing on me. That's really as far as
Parker, it goes. With the Brendan Sorsby, Will Hammond scenario, y'all should be 5-0 going into K-State before y'all play us.
Well, I did a whole show. I'm sure Christian and I talked a couple times where we kind of landed on by the end of the show, like both of our seasons could very well be spinning on how that Houston-Kansas State game goes. Because, and at the time, Sorsby was still playing, but I was like, hey, 2 losses for Houston at that point could be catastrophic.
Yeah.
But also Kansas State's going to be kind of looking like, can they be the Kansas State of 2 or 3 years ago? So I think that's probably fair.
Guys, Avery Johnson and Marcel Reed do have a lot of commonality. And so when I look at that Texas A&M offense, resurgence-wise under Colin Klein, that is the one thing that does make me a little afraid about K-State. That's
a great point, man. They're
carbon copies of each other, and they have very comparable.
I would say Avery's more talented overall than Marcel Reed. Personally,
I think Avery's probably got a better capability to layer the ball in between all 3 layers than Marcel.
That's interesting. Yeah. One last thing, too. I think Jason Beck's probably one of the biggest losses nobody talks about. Nobody talks about it.
Great way to end it. That's why I think Utah has a regression. That Dampier, yes, but you lost your leading wide receiver. He didn't not even to the portal. He just left. He ran out of eligibility. And so many guys to Michigan.
Did John Paul Daly go to Michigan?
Well, the whole offensive line's in the NFL now.
John, I say it too. I said John Paul Daly as well.
One of the popes.
Yeah. The whole offensive line's the NFL now too. I think that's like.
So then you're like,
they were so good on the O line last year.
Utah's usually good there, but that is tough to replace.
True. So. All right, that's Mountaineer Paul, Locked On West Virginia, Cody Stovall, Locked On Oklahoma State, and Parker Ainsworth of Locked On Cougs, talking all things Houston. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making our shows your first listen every single day. It's the Dose Grande Squad.
Do you think anybody has made a fan base called the Scallywags yet?